What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It is time for another recap, Real Housewives of Potomac recap with Lailah Lynn and Kempire Daily on this channel. But real quick, let's get some intro music going before we get the recap started. So, you guys, what did you think about last night's episode of the show? We kicked it off with the wide body comments and Ashley clapping back on Candace, and then it kind of seemed like little Miss Candace backtracked there. What did you think was her motivation for telling Ashley that she didn't literally mean that she had a wide body? Kempire?
I think as soon as Ashley came at her with the whole body shaming thing, she's like, this is being filmed. I don't want people to think that I'm body shaming them. So that's why she backtracked. She meant everything that she said.
I agree.
Yeah, she definitely meant it. And I agree. I felt like it was for PR. Like, before this gets out of hand, before people call me out for body shaming, let me just explicitly say, no, I'm not body shaming you. You know, I'm just making jokes. You're not hearing what you think you hear. But we all know what it was. We know what it was. We all saw it.
Exactly. And it was pretty brutal because the first time, and it's the clip that aired last week that Ashley said, oh, you're body shaming me now. Candace doubled down. She dug her heels in and she said, I'm not body shaming you. You body shame yourself every time you walk in a room with your big ass face, forehead, or whatever. I was like,
it hurt my feelings.
Your
feelings was hurt.
It would have hurt mine too. I have a question to ask you guys. Is there a thin line between shade and bullying?
Oh,
that's a good question.
Oh, I think there is, especially in this day and age. Everybody wants to be politically correct, so there is a very thin line. But we see a lot of bullying on some of these reality shows that we call shade a lot of the time.
I think shade is fun. I think even if you look at the origin of shade, it's kind of like fun. Like, I'm gonna shade you before you shade me. I think shade is fun. But yeah, a lot of what people call shade on these shows, like for me, Gizelle and Robin, when they get together, I feel like that's bullying. A lot of stuff gets called shade that is really bullying.
I completely agree. And, that's not to excuse Ashley either. I feel that sometimes people feel like we're forgetting everything that Ashley's done in the past. I feel like she has fallen into that bullying category in the past herself, and particularly her, Gizelle, and Robin when Karen's parents were dying and they were really trying to dig at her for the taxes and stuff. Does she actually live at this place and stuff? And, never actually stopping to wonder, is this woman doing okay as her parents are about to pass away?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that was definitely bullying. It was.
Yeah,
it was.
And these are grown women. We have to remember that element too. These are grown. These are not just women with children. So it's sort of like, come on, girls, ladies, women.
Better, ladies. And speaking of death, here we go again with the Gizelle comment. So Mia tells her, listen, Karen told me to pass a message along to you, which is that she, her kids are offended. You just have to apologize. I know you guys are rolling your eyes, but that is what she's running with this season. And so what does Gizelle say? Karen and Ray will both be dead before I apologize. Was that right?
No, it's not right. I feel like, okay, she's not wishing death on either one of them, but I feel like she's low-key predicting their deaths. Like, she's predicting, the first time she predicted Ray will be dead before, I lose my beauty. And now she's predicting both you and Ray will be dead before I apologize to you. So it's still not right. It's not right.
I think the first time people kind of gave her leeway as, she was just saying that. She didn't mean that. But that second time around, this last episode, it seemed as if she knew what she was saying and she meant it.
Yeah,
and she knew that Karen would be offended by that.
Yes, isn't that the difference though? Like, the first time, it's like you don't know that Karen's going to be offended because you could tell she was just kind of saying it as a joke. But now, the second and third times, because this is actually the third time she said it, and it's like, okay, you know that this offends Karen, you know that this hurts her, and so now you're doing it on purpose to intentionally hurt her. And I feel like that's the difference.
And we also have to remember, she likes to shade Karen about her age. People reminded me last night, there's only like a 6 to 7 year age difference between the two of them.
That's true.
Gizelle, make it make sense.
Gizelle is just as old as Karen, like in reality.
They
Yes.
always do this. These housewives, they'll always use age as a diss, and they're never like that far apart in age from the other people. And at the same time, I feel like age is a blessing. There's so many people who don't get to 50, who don't get to 40, who
Mhm.
don't get to 60. So, like, why is it a diss?
Yeah, especially looking as good as Karen does. Like Karen looks good. Like what is she, 60
She
or
looks
60 something?
amazing.
Yeah, she looks
Yes.
amazing. And even Giselle looks good. So I think they should both, this is ideally speaking, but I think they should both embrace their ages because to me they're the same age range. Like 5 or 6
Mhm.
years puts you in the same, it puts you in the same range. So embrace it.
And
Yeah.
honestly, between the two of them, I would say that Karen takes better care of herself than Giselle takes care of herself. Like Karen goes back, she does these tweaks, face, or some people say she did stuff with her body. I don't know. Personally, I don't know. But like she's doing the damn thing. She's working on it. She's dressing nice. Her hair is laid well. You know,
I know she did at one point. Karen did get breast implants, but then I think she got them taken out because they were saying, even Andy asked her, like it looked different. So I
Yeah.
don't know what she did. Once she got them taken out, I don't know if she got new ones put in that were smaller or if she just got a lift. But she did just do something as far as her body, but she definitely does try to take care of herself. And as far as her aging and her face, she does make an effort where you hear Giselle, and this is no shade to Giselle because everybody's not into cosmetic procedures. But Giselle, when she was talking about swimming, she was saying basically that's all she does. Like she exercises and she swims, but she doesn't do anything else as far as anti-aging, which
We
is
can
her
tell.
business. There you go.
what?
There you go.
Oh, yes, you can tell. And it's true. I never understand why people brag on not doing cosmetic stuff. It's like, it's not a crime to. If you want to look
Right.
good, you want to look good. And if you got the money to look good, you've got them. Like, you don't win a prize at the end of your life for not tweaking anything. Like, I don't get, it's like, Layla, maybe you'll relate to this. Like when women brag about not having an epidural versus having an C-section versus vaginal. At the end of the day, you've got your baby. Like
Yes, I'm about to knock my green screen down. I had an epidural both times, and I realized I gave birth in a Catholic hospital, and I didn't know, ladies, if you're watching, if you give birth in a Catholic hospital, you have to actually ask for an epidural. I thought they were just going to give me an epidural, because I had put it on this. They asked you to make a birth plan, and I put on my plan. Yes, I do plan to have an epidural. But I guess you basically you have to write it down, but then you have to actually ask for it. And so I feel like I know the difference between having an epidural and not having it, because when I did have an epidural, it was so late. And so I was already, them contractions ain't no joke. When I tell you contractions feel like a Mack truck, like when you don't have an epidural, they feel like a Mack truck is hitting you like every 57 seconds, a Mack truck is hitting you. And so giving birth with no painkillers or whatever, it's to me, in my opinion, it's not anything to be like, oh, I did this naturally. I'm so proud of myself. If you got the baby out, okay, then be proud of yourself. You know what I mean? And so
exactly.
I feel the same way as far as like, I've shared with you guys, I have had what people call plastic surgery. I've had liposuction, and I don't feel ashamed about it. And I don't feel like anybody should be ashamed about investing money and time into their body.
Exactly.
I
think
say
it's
you're
amazing.
brave.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people after the surgery, like that's rough. Like just the whole recovery period. I'm like, oh my God.
It was a lot. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. It was a lot.
But it is so worth it. I want that as part of my baby agreement. If I have your baby, then this got to come with it.
Not a baby agreement. Okay, Portia.
That's real. And I feel like, remember we were talking about Ashley and Michael and how he was like, you're doing good, you're losing the weight. I feel like she had a baby agreement with Michael. Like, I'm not going to be overweight after I had this baby. Because remember, he didn't actually want to have kids again. So I feel like she made those promises. And that was part of her baby agreement.
Oh
exactly.
God,
I think so too.
not.
It's just the nature of that relationship, being one of those, you've got to stay beautiful and you've got to stay rich if you want us to stay together.
Yeah, this is what it is.
Has Michael looked in the mirror? All right.
He doesn't need to. He's got the money.
Yeah, look at his bank account. It's not about the mirror. It's about when you log on. Wells
I
Fargo.
want to look at Michael's bank account because millionaires they're a dime a dozen nowadays. Okay, so
True too.
Ashley could find another millionaire better looking.
Let me Google his net worth. Michael Darby net worth.
Come on, we already know those net worths aren't accurate online.
But they're interesting. They're
What's
interesting.
it say?
No, they're definitely interesting. Like, especially the ones that are like the 500,000ers.
It says 20 million. It says 20 million.
Remember, he
Diamond
developed
Body is
that
worth
entire building they're living in. What was that, Kempire?
I said Simon Body is worth more, allegedly.
Oh.
Listen, that's a whole nother story.
A whole other story. And they do say that Gizelle is worth like this many, like 5, or Robin's worth 3. It's like, all right.
Have you seen Giselle's house?
Right. And you guys, back to Karen. So she's doing that Surrey County commercial, but it turned out that it was like a dry run to know how they would do it in Surrey. Do you guys believe that it was really a dry run? Because when the producer asked her, why are you shooting a Surrey County commercial in Potomac? She kind of just paused. And it's like, do you really need your whole camera crew in Potomac to do a dry run for something in Surrey?
Yes. Look, I think Karen gets the funny of the show and she adds to that. So she completely gets it. If you see the actual commercial, it was done in Surrey. And we also remember it's a pandemic, and Surrey is 3 hours away from where she lives in Potomac. So if they're doing a dry run, they're practicing. Is it worth it to drive all the way to Surrey to do a dry run when you know that's not going to be actual commercial?
Are you sure that was Surrey in the actual commercial? Like, would you bet money that was Surrey?
I mean, I don't know if I'm betting money. Come on now, because I don't trust Karen. But based on what we've heard, the actual video, the actual commercial was done in Surrey.
Yeah. I have to watch it again, but when I was watching Karen in Potomac, talking about, I'm in Surrey County, I felt a little bit offended because Surrey County, it's like I don't want to say underdeveloped, but it's not an urbanized place. Like, it's developed, but it is like a lot of nature, like it is a lot of parks. So for her to shoot her commercial, which I don't think was a dry run, I think that was her commercial. So yeah. I do. So for her to shoot her commercial in Potomac was a little bit offensive to me when Surrey County is actually beautiful. You know what I mean? And I feel like they gave Karen a little bit too much creative control in shooting that commercial. I feel like she had a little bit too much creative control. And it actually reminded me, y'all remember Boomerang and Strong J and how they let Strong J make the commercial and it came out crazy? I felt like they were giving Karen too much control. And so you end up shooting a commercial about Surrey in Potomac. I felt like that was the real commercial.
I mean, we have to remember, though, she is the big name. No one really knew Surrey County until Karen brought it up as her hometown. So they're going to do anything and everything that Karen wants. And like I said, I do believe that the actual commercial was in Surrey, because I think if you're doing a tourism commercial, I think for the show, they were trying to be funny. And the producers and the editors fell into that. But according to Karen, it was definitely the actual commercial that we see was filmed in Surrey. And I think out of respect for that, because I'm sure people in Surrey be like, that's not Surrey in the commercial.
Right. That's how I feel.
You know what I found offensive was the fact that she thought that we did not know that peanuts come in shells. What was that comment?
Yeah. I was like, Karen, just because you didn't know something until somebody told you doesn't mean the world doesn't know. Yeah, that peanuts come in shells.
And speaking of like stuff that the world already knows and whatnot, here comes Gizelle announcing yet another breakup to her girls. Honestly, at this point, when she was talking about the dissolution of her alleged relationship with Pastor Jamal, I was like, how many times? Like, I feel like this is like in every season. It's like Groundhog's Day when it comes to Gizelle telling her girls that she's broken up with somebody. It was Sherman. He ghosted her the morning of a wedding that they were supposed to go to together. This, that. Like, I feel like she's always announcing a breakup. And I felt sad for her at a certain point. I'm like, maybe you should kind of wait a bit longer now before announcing relationships to your girls, because they don't seem to be working out too well for you generally. Right, they're not even lasting like a year, and she's already like talking about it to the girls, and the girls are older now. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like her interaction with her girls. Every time there's a scene with the girls, I'm thoroughly entertained, because they really do shade her the entire time, because they're real. And I think even the very little bit of the conversation that they had about Pastor Jamal Bryant, you could tell they were like, like they were really trying to control their reactions, girls. But I saw y'all.
They were.
Yeah. They are very, open and honest. And I think it's because of their age. Like they're teenage girls. So you're gonna see the facial expressions, you're gonna get the responses from them.
Mhm.
But I feel like, and I shared before that when I look at Gizelle and her daughters, I do feel like that's it. Like that's the family right there. So when Gizelle was telling them, I don't think I'm gonna get married again, um, because I don't want to answer to another man, especially when it comes to finances. I was like, yeah, I know, Gizelle. Like, obviously, you're not going to get married again. This is your family. When your girls go off to college, it's going to be an issue for you, but you're probably not going to get married again. That I get that feeling that she's not.
Ew, why do you think that she won't ever get married again? Besides the financial part of it.
Okay. And when I say this, when I say that I don't believe Gizelle won't get married again, not getting married is not negative.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, let's just start there. Not getting married again or period is not negative. And I just feel like she's such an independent person. And sometimes when you get married, especially older men, they have a traditional point of view. Like Gizelle mentioned, like financially, she doesn't want to answer to someone. And at her age, like approaching 60, and she would likely be marrying like a 60-plus-year-old man, he's going to expect,
I'm so mad you said she's approaching 60. She just turned 50. Come on.
I guess it's all the same to me. You in your 50s, the man probably gonna be in his 60s, and he's gonna want you to answer to him. And I just don't think Gizelle is the type to answer to a man. I don't think she is. And I feel like that's why the fake relationship with Jamal suited her, because in reality, she's not going to answer to a man. She's not going to share her bank account with a man. She's not going to have a man asking her, what she spent money on. Like I just get the feeling she's not that girl.
But at her age, do you think that a marriage dynamic would even be that way anyway? When you're both coming into a marriage and you're like retirement age or post-retirement age, will you even be commingling finances like that? I
Yeah,
don't know.
from what I've seen, like my own mom is single, and I've seen her, try to date and stuff like that. And these guys don't grow up. Like I had to learn that with my mom. I was like, why are they acting like this? These guys don't change. They don't grow up. So they
Mhm.
do expect that they do expect to share money. They do expect to put our money together. They do expect you to answer to them, as far as how you spend your money. From my experience watching my mom, that's what I've seen, that it does not change the dynamic between men and women, regardless of age.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Maybe she needs to date younger.
That's a thought.
That would be interesting. And I think she could. I could see her
Yeah.
doing it.
She could. She's very pretty. She could get a younger man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have to see that. I do
And
have
might
to
match her maturity level too.
Ooh. Ooh. We love to see it, Kempire. We love to see it. It's true, though. That might be what works for her. Or maybe she could be like, because sometimes women who have this kind of like complex surrounding finances in a relationship and depending on a man financially, maybe they prefer the reverse, where a man depends on them financially. That might be a dynamic that works for Gizelle.
It could be. I would love to see that on the show. If Gizelle would date someone younger than her and open up about what is going on, I would love to see if that works better for her.
Right.
I would love to see that.
The thing is, I don't know that she would openly admit it because she spent since her first season talking about how she needs a man with a big wallet, big bank account, blah, 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 So like, will she do an about face and all of a sudden get a man that she has to take care of? I don't know, but I do think that is a dynamic that would work better for her based on the anxiety that she has surrounding being dependent upon a man.
I agree.
I want to see it, but like you said, I'm not sure she's going to open up. This episode, we got a little bit of her opening up, and Candace was like, "Oh my Lord, my Lanta, what's going on?" She's opening up and showing her feelings, and she's on a reality show. God forbid.
And Candace did do another dig recently. She did an interview. Actually, it was the after show of the last season, and she's talking about the last week's episode. She's talking about how Wendy said that maybe Gizelle said maybe Wendy shouldn't be part of the group. Maybe you shouldn't be a part of the group, Gizelle, because you're never vulnerable. So it's like, sis, you don't want Gizelle on the show no more because that's what part of the group technically means,
Right.
And speaking of Candace, the tension is still incredibly thick between her and her husband, Chris, since last week's episode where she was upset about him not being there for her thing for 2 days, her music video shoot. So she comes in. He seemed to be trying to talk to her, but she was kind of mopey and ignoring him. And then her first comment to him when she finally did speak to him was, "Have you been drinking?" What did you guys think about that comment? Because you know in TV how the producers will run with it, and they did.
It was funny to me. It was funny to me, to be honest with you. It was funny to me. But I do think they have a dynamic which works for them, because I feel like they're I don't want to say oil and water, but yin and yang. Like, Candace is overly emotional, and then Chris is the one that kind of like caps her off, like, we ain't gonna go too far. And I like seeing them make up, even though it started off crazy with her asking him, was he drinking? I was happy to see them make up.
Mm-hmm.
I was bored to tears. I watched that season.
That's true.
That scene
Kempire, I
twice.
saw you sleeping a little bit earlier there. Why?
Just because I'm like, oh, I guess we have to talk about it because it's a part of the episode. But I was so bored. I'm entertained by Candace's confessionals when she's talking about the other ladies and her interaction with the other ladies. But her relationship, her storyline is boring.
Oh my God. I disagree. I feel like she doesn't have a dramatic storyline because of what happened last season with the altercation. I feel like they let her get away with not having a dramatic storyline, but I'm not bored by it.
I don't need her to have a dramatic storyline. I just need it to be interesting. Her relationship with Chris is not interesting.
But can we at least be happy that we're not seeing too much of her dynamic with the kids? Because that one episode was painful enough. Was it not?
That was cringy.
Yeah, I saw people actually writing think pieces on the internet about how she was playing Chris's daughter's hair. Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah,
not think pieces.
That's the problem with Real Housewives of Potomac viewers. I can imagine what those think pieces said. They were probably talking about texturism or something.
Yes.
Every time something they don't like, what do they say? It's colorism. They say it's featureism. They say it's texturism. And it's just, they take it to like a level that like it's really not on a lot of the time. And I don't get it. It's why I shied away from covering Housewives of Potomac for so long, because people always made it a color or a whatever. Did you guys ever get comments like that when you were covering Housewives of Potomac?
Yeah, I get a ton of comments like that, but I can't say that I disagree. A lot of times, even though sometimes the comments, they might sound crazy, but then when you watch the show and you look at how people align on the show, like you see, yeah, I'm just telling y'all what I see. All right. The views of Lailah Lynn are not the views of Grace Report, but I'm just telling y'all what I see. When you see how Wendy and Gizelle, who are both brown skin, align together, and the Robin and Gizelle align together, it can look like, brown skin against light skin. It can look that way, even though I think there's more to it. Like, I don't think it's colorism per se, or if it is colorism, I think that's part of a larger dynamic. I think it's more than colorism. But when people make those colorism comments, I do get what they're saying. Yeah,
I get it in some cases, but in other cases, I'm like, you're tired. Go home. You're tired. Your arm must be tired from that reach. I'm sorry. By the way, Kempire, I have to say, it is so adorable how people call you Dimples. They'll be like, no Dimples. Okay, Dimples. It's so
cute. Really? I'm not even looking.
Oh my God.
But it's a birth defect, y'all.
I love it. I love it.
Because I got dimples too, and it's not a defect. Okay, it is what it is.
That's what they say. I mean, I love my dimples, but I'm just saying that's what they say.
Yeah.
And did you guys notice how the producers, what did they do? After Candace made the "have you been drinking" comment, they kept panning to that glass of scotch or whiskey or whatever, or bourbon all the time. And I fell out of my seat laughing when Chris and Candace are fighting. And at a certain point, he's like, you expect me to always be available for you? You think I'm always, like, I'm not at home sitting around doing nothing. They pan right into the alcohol. It was like, you guys are messy.
I love it. They're so messy. They were messy during Karen's commercial too. I was like, I love this.
Yes.
These are the little elements that you have to pay attention to that I love.
I love it too. Yes.
That's what makes the Real Housewives so special. Like, the producers just deliver every time. I feel like they're the extra castmate to each, show.
But there seems to be this narrative that Chris drinks a lot. That's going around.
That was the first time I noticed.
Yeah. Say it again. I because both of you were talking. I was like, wait, what?
We didn't notice. That was the first time.
Oh, really? No, I've seen a few people, insinuate, because even in the first episode, Dorothy is like, you guys are drinking already at this point in the day. So there have been a couple of times, and even online, I've seen people reference his drinking.
I
Really?
So
haven't
I'm like,
seen it.
oh, okay. Is there a situation happening?
I'm gonna
Mm,
do a rewatch then. I really want to do a
yeah,
rewatch from season 1, actually, and I'm gonna pay attention to that, see if it pops up.
yeah. I'm gonna watch out for that too.
Yeah. We got a super chat from Zoe's World. Thank you so much for the super chat, Zoe. She says, I believe that Gizelle's kids were hurt. It's not cool to watch your mom being humiliated, especially since they didn't approve of their reunion.
Hmm.
Do you guys believe that the kids were hurt by what happened?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And
I
that's why we
do.
need you here, Layla.
Oh my God. How could it not hurt them? Their dad played their mom on national TV again. How could it not hurt them?
But
Because
is
they
that a
knew it was
Karen and a
fake.
Monique issue or a Pastor Holy WHORE issue that they should be upset about?
Listen. If somebody called your dad, it's not just calling him Pastor Holy Whore, but you know that you have extra siblings
Mhm.
out there. And we don't even know if they've met them. Like, we haven't seen them pictured with their siblings, but just
Mm.
knowing that you have extra siblings out there. And then, people are saying, and it's been implied that, even while he was allegedly with your mom, he was cheating. As a teenage girl, I would think that that would hurt.
I agree. I think that they probably were hurt by it, but I think that it is something that they need to take up with Jamal because he knew that they were all public figures at this point, and he still decided to act that way. And Giselle should be upset at herself because the only reason it even came out was because she kept poking the bear when it came to Monique and her own family, and Monique had to come back with something. So if she didn't do that, I don't know that it would have come out that way, personally.
Yeah.
You also have to remember Giselle's father himself talked about it on the show. And I'm
That's
sure the father's probably said it in front of the girls before.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Man.
Now,
And I
you
don't think they
guys,
were truly hurt, honestly. I think she's using that as an excuse.
I
as
think part of her felt, even though I do think it was like for TV, her and Jamal allegedly reconciling, I do think it was for TV, even in the text messages to the woman that he was dating, one of the women he was dating, he does say this is TV, like you're watching TV, like, what do you think you're looking at? You're looking at TV. I still do think a part of Gizelle felt like he's not going to embarrass me on national TV.
Mhm.
And he did. And so I do think a part of her is hurt.
But how did he embarrass her when it was a fake relationship that they agreed
Even
to?
if we
You
doing
know
a
he's
fake,
messy, his messy past.
even if we're doing a fake relationship, you think this person has enough respect for you still not to embarrass you on TV, right? Like, that's the point of the fake relationship. Like, we're presenting this to TV, so don't embarrass me on TV.
She should have put that in the
But
contract.
but it goes back to when people
right?
it goes back to when they say when people show you who they are the first time, believe them.
Yeah.
He showed her multiple times over decades that this is who he is. So she's gonna come to him decades later, be my fake boyfriend on this reality show, but don't embarrass me. You are the silly one.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true.
Both you just said yeah.
I love it. So things get a little bit more serious later on in the episode where Wendy talks about, how the Derek Chauvin trial was playing out and everything. And her kids were starting to ask her questions about police brutality and Black Lives Matter and everything. And I'm really curious from you guys' perspective, as African Americans or Black Americans in Kempire's case, because Kempire, your family is Jamaican, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to know how these kinds of situations play out in your lives. So I want to start with you, Kempire. Like, at what age were you in America? Did you grow up in America? Like, how did these conversations go down in your household?
My Jamaican family did not warn me about the world when it comes to racism and police brutality and things like that. I kind of learned that on my own and experienced some of that on my own. So we never had that kind of conversation. That's why I thought it was such an interesting scene to watch Wendy and Eddie have that conversation with her boys, and made me think of Layla and the conversations she's going to have with her kids. Or I don't know how people have those kinds of conversations. It's probably why my parents didn't have those conversations, because it's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah. Layla, I want to ask you because something that Wendy said that is very true. It's like you feel like you're almost like taking away the youthful innocence of a child when you open their eyes up to like the ugly and harsh realities of the world. So that makes it difficult to know when to have that conversation. So how's that going on in your household?
Well, it has come up. My son is only 4 though. My son is only
Mm.
4. So we haven't, had that conversation. He wouldn't understand something like that. But I have had a conversation with his preschool teacher before this, panorama when he was in school. And his teacher, sent a message home saying something about him being aggressive. And he's like 2. And I'm like, okay, why are you singling my son out as being aggressive? And it's only at the time he had a white teacher, a Hispanic teacher, and a black teacher. And it was only the white teacher that a couple times actually sent a message home about him being aggressive. And then when I would ask the other teachers, not on purpose, but just randomly, whoever's there, I would ask them, is my son aggressive? Like, is he doing the most at school when mommy's not looking? And they were like, no more than the other kids. So I did confront, the white teacher, and I had a conversation with her about, pointing him out as aggressive. And I actually framed it, as far as her skill set, because she was like, she can't tell if he's aggressive or playful. And so I was saying, if there's a gap in your skill set where you can't tell aggressiveness from playfulness, that's something you needed to address. But because my child is black, don't lean to the side of aggressive. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's offensive. But I don't look forward to that conversation. My daughter is 7. I don't, it sounds weird, but I remember figuring out that I was black myself. And at this point, my daughter has figured out that she is black, and that's different from a lot of the people that she's around. But it's not an easy conversation, and it does take away a child's innocence, when you have to tell them that, people are judged by their race in this world, in this country, and our race is sometimes judged more harshly than other races. It does take away their innocence. And looking
Yeah.
at Wendy's little boys, it kind of reminded me of my brother, because they actually look just like my brother. And I
Mhm.
remember my mom having that conversation several times with my brother, and it's hard and it's unfair, because I don't believe white people have to have those conversations with their kids.
No, they
On the
don't.
Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Kyle and Garcelle talked about that, and she confirmed, yeah, I never thought to even have a conversation like that with my girls.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Garcelle was able to bring that up on the show.
Mhm. And I find that makes me so upset. That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw Wendy having the conversation with her sons. And I'm like, it reminded me of like the Housewives of Atlanta and just like other like reality stars having to have these black ones having to have these conversations with their kids. And I'm like, it's just so unfair that like we're the only ones who constantly have to have these conversations, and you're almost scaring the kids, but you're like warning
Yeah.
them about like what can happen and stuff. And police brutality isn't only amongst against like grown black or African American people, it's against children as well. Like we heard about like children being shot in under 9 seconds, like things like that happen as well. And so
Mm.
it's just so sad. And I ask you guys as African Americans, not because it doesn't exist where I grew up mainly, which is Canada, or where I live now, which is France. It's just that this is where like the biggest conversations, and with guns being more accessible and more used in America. That's why I just asked from that perspective, because we certainly do have our fair share in Canada and here in France as well. So it's just
I
hard.
think I think with our country and the history of slavery in our country, and then the police department being birthed out of the end of slavery, I think that's kind of why in our country it's more like, you know what I mean, like more aggressive as far as the way police treat black people here. That's my
Exactly.
opinion.
No.
It's unfortunate. It's painful to see and hear about. I really hope that one day that it improves, the situation improves. I feel like we're on our way there, especially with the past year and everything that's happened. So I'm feeling hopeful. I don't want to be naive or anything, because it's going to take a long time. But I'm feeling hopeful and I'm feeling optimistic, you guys.
Yes, God bless you, Grace. God bless you.
Well, you know what? With the whole George Floyd, that being captured on video, that sparked a lot of conversation around the world, especially because it was the pandemic and no one was going anywhere. So everyone was just sort of home seeing this and experiencing this. And a lot of people that aren't Black, eyes were open, more than before. A lot of people like to say, I've had white people say to me, "Oh, racism's over." Okay, for you.
Yeah. You didn't see, I just marched. It's done.
But the other beautiful thing to see during those marches were it was more mixed than it was just Black people out marching. It was a lot of people, Asian, Hispanic, white, everyone was marching, and around the world.
Yeah, and that's beautiful to see. A lot of white people who didn't realize that they have a privilege with being white, because for them, like, as far as us as Black people, we identify as Black because there's so much that comes with being Black, but for white people it's not really a thing they think about. So for a lot of white people to come to the realization that they do have a privilege with being white, they do have white privilege, and that they can help people, they can help Black people, with their white privilege. I think that's one of the better things that came that is coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now, you guys, next scene, Ashley, she's pleading with Karen to make amends with Gizelle. But I don't understand why Ashley feels so involved in this. Is it because she just had a baby and she needs a storyline that she's going to pretend she cares whether or not Karen and Gizelle are getting along? Did you get that vibe too when she was like pleading? You're like, why do you care? Like, who are you in the scheme of this?
Yeah, she gotta get that check. Same thing with why she approached Wendy. She knows she gotta get into the storyline. Like, she gotta weave herself in there. So yes, I think that's what it was.
I literally, I remember that moment, and the best part of that moment for me was seeing Dylan and seeing Karen's interaction, because it's so different than Gizelle's interaction with the child. So I was just like, that's what stood out to me. I didn't even think about what Ashley was saying.
Right. Gizelle looks like she hates kids. So Karen looks like she loves kids. So it's
mind
really
you, she's the mother of 3.
Right. You're like, really, girl? She might be one of those ones who only likes her own kids, or like kids that are in the close family. Otherwise, get away from me.
Yeah, that's what I get from you.
So that basically is all that happens, at her little rendezvous with Karen. And then Robin meets her life coach. Guys, I was optimistic when we saw her foot come out of the car. I was like, damn, those are some cute shoes. Then you see the rest of the outfit. There he goes.
I'm sorry. She looked better though this episode because her braids were down.
I thought they looked a mess. The braids looked a mess. The pleather joggers with those heels looked a mess. With that sweater on, ruffled sweater, like, she looked horrid. We always talk about Gizelle's lack of fashion, but Robin too. So bad. Oh my God.
But just Gizelle definitely, in all fairness, Gizelle's is definitely worse.
Yes, I'll give her that. It's worse. But Robin, I can count like maybe 5 times or 10 times actually that she's looked good to me. Like, whoa.
I feel like Gizelle is only worse because Gizelle actually tries to look cute. I feel like Robin doesn't even try.
Yes.
She tried though at this life coach though. I was surprised. She's coming out in heels. I was like, okay, girl, let me find out. I was very impressed.
She tried.
Oh, you were impressed.
With the heels.
Oh, Lailah being shady. I love it. So, guys, Kempire, I need you to keep that image handy, because really soon I know you're going to use it. So she tells her life coach about her trust issues stemming from the friend scamming them out of millions of dollars.
Oh.
And then she tells the coach that she's not wedding planning or anything like that, because she's like, when Juan was down and out, I was uplifting him and stuff. And then we saw the playback of him thanking her for that. What did you guys feel at that moment? Like, is it not fair, the dynamic there?
Oh my
God.
The fact that let me take this off so y'all can see. The fact that she brought up when she brought up my fiance, and the life coach who's not in on the plan and the plot was like, oh my God, so you have something to be excited about and plan. Did you guys see her face? Her face was sort of like, didn't expect to be talking about this.
Oh my God.
The life coach thought it was real. And she was kind of like, okay, this is something we can work with. Let's talk about this.
Are you wedding planning? Robin goes, no, I'm not even thinking about planning for that.
I wanted her to say it's a pandemic again. It's a pandemic again, but she didn't.
Oh
say
my God. She better not even try it this time. So again, Robin says she doesn't trust anybody because of the friend that was scamming or whatever. And so, Kempire, this is where your picture comes in. So at a certain point, the life coach tells her that like there's this certain stress that's always put on Black women about like, being strong and like handling everything. Did you eat that up, Kempire, that part?
I thought the same thing when she said that about the Black. I said, but Robin's not fully Black. But, I'm being facetious when I say that, because no matter what, Robin's going to be treated like a Black woman in the world, period.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put that out there. But for fun and giggles, I said, she's not even, she's more white than she's Black. We found that out later.
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Kempire. I'd be like, oh my God, what do I say to this man? Bringing that up. And like you said, I'm glad you acknowledged that she does show up as Black in this world.
Yes.
White people see her as Black. Everybody sees her as a Black woman, despite the fact she actually is technically more European than she is African.
I have to tell you guys that whenever this comes up, it's so interesting to me how differently race is looked at around the world. Because for me, I feel like I have the African perspective, the Canadian perspective, and like now the European perspective. To me, from all three perspectives, I feel like most people, like, on these sides of the coin would look at her and say, this is like someone who is mixed in some capacity. They wouldn't look at her and go, she's Black, because to us there is the nuance. There wasn't the one drop rule or anything like that, so we don't really look at race the same way. You know what I mean? So to me personally, when I look at her, I see admixture or like mixed or something like that. Yeah.
What do you see when you look at this woman?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Grace, I'm glad you bring that up, because and the thing about the one drop rule, because I do believe in this country, the reason we look at a woman like Robin or even a woman like Gizelle as Black instead of mixed is because of the history of slavery in this country. I do feel like that's the difference. And I do feel like in general, most people, even Robin herself, would see herself as a mixed person. Because obviously that's what it amounts to. If you're 60% European and less than 40% African, then you are mixed race.
Exactly. So you guys, it is time for the goddess lunch. And can we talk about the looks? What did you guys think about the outfits? Who was the best dressed for you guys all? Let's start with you, Lailah.
You know what? I have my goddess halo.
Oh, I was looking for mine. I couldn't find it.
I think I really like Mia. Mia had on, it was really a shirt dress, but it was like a maxi shirt dress. And I really, really liked it, how it was open in the front. So I think she was one of the best dressed. And then I also like Wendy in her gown. Like she gave you Grecian goddess with the gown, the unbelted gown, and then the headdress. And then I like Estale with her
Habesha
queen. And she, even on her Instagram, she was showing that. So I would say those three were my best dress.
Yeah. And how about you, Kempire? Who's your best dressed?
It's definitely between Dr. Wendy Acefo and Escala. They really came and served. I mean, they all look beautiful. Who's the worst dressed? Candace in that hair. Oh. I didn't love that, but she was testing out for a music video. I didn't love that, but I felt like everyone looked beautiful. But Escala and Wendy were it for me, especially Scala's hair. Oh my God. And the headdress. I said, oh, you better come through with the fashions.
And you know what? Speaking of Escala's hair, she did, I forget the name of that style, but she had an Ethiopian hairstyle that actually, what is her name? That got into the fight?
Oh, Monique?
Yeah, Monique. Monique has actually worn that hairstyle on the show.
Yeah.
Monique wore that exact hairstyle on the show. Yeah. Yeah. And it looked beautiful on both women. It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. But I have to give it to Wendy. When I saw a full view and that she posted on her Instagram, I was like, oh, she really came to slay with that outfit.
I really loved her earrings, especially that shade of green in particular. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, guys, who is your worst dressed?
I'm gonna have to say Robin. I'm gonna have to give it up to her.
Really?
Wearing navy blue, they tell you this is a goddess luncheon. You show up in navy blue. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to give it to you. That means you put in some effort. People are going to be in floral. Like goddess, when they say goddess, really a lot of people think of white. And you see most of the girls were in white, or they were in white dresses with some type of print on them, or even just pastel like Wendy. But to show up in navy blue,
well, it's because it's Robin. Robin never gets it right,
ever.
My worst dress.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she's my worst dressed though, because it still looked beautiful on Robin. She didn't get the theme. It did look good on her. The worst dress has to be between, for me, Candace because of that hair.
Yeah.
Or Karen. And the reason why I'm saying Karen looked great, but her when they zoomed in on those pants and they were dirty, I said, "Oh hell no."
I saw that too. You know, to add to the point about Robin, though, you guys, did you notice that, like, while the girls were beefing, Robin was in the background, like, doing, like, you know, like, I don't know,
Laying an
stretching or
egg?
something? Yeah, she couldn't even sit down in that dress properly.
Yeah, Robin into that. She was like laying an egg, like she was squatting down, like she was
I
laying
get
an
it though.
egg.
I knew exactly what Robin was doing. She couldn't sit on her butt that long. That's what she was trying to. Yes.
So she was trying to stretch, you think?
She was trying to stretch out because she was sitting. Remember, they're shooting for hours. It seems like 20 minutes to us, but they're shooting for hours. She's sitting down. She's probably like, I can't sit this long. Like, I'm on this little stool right now. And I'm like, oh, Lord. So if I could squat right now, I would be.
She should have stepped away because it looked crazy. It looked crazy.
Yeah.
Like, girl, what are you doing?
But you notice they didn't show her a lot during the scene.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of not being shown a lot, can we get into Escala again, giving us nothing for yet another episode? We're like 10 episodes in now, you guys. Why is she here? Like, why did they not trim her out of the episodes? It's weird.
I feel like she is supposed to do something. Like when you think back to Friends of the Show, they have to give some type of background on who they are, and they haven't shown that for her. They haven't shown her family. All they show is her in conversation with the other girls, and when she's in conversation with them, she's kind of like caught in the middle, you know. But they're not showing anything about her.
Yeah, and I'm sure they did film things with her and her family, and then they decided no, they're not going to show it. I don't know why. I want to see more of Escala. If anything, she gives me more natural likability than we see with Bershawn on the Real Housewives of New York, who's just sort of like, I want to be in this. I want to be a housewife. Mm-hmm. I get something different from Escala, and I love the fashion that we're getting from Escala because, especially in Potomac, we don't really get a lot of the fashion. So I want to see more from her, but you're right. It's like 10 episodes later, and she's just sort of there.
Yeah. Y'all give me 1 second.
Sure, no problem. So Conscious Beauty sent a super chat. Thank you so much for your super chat. And she says, love y'all. Karen's parents who passed and Ray were a certain age that should be considered. Oh, when it comes to Gizelle always talking about Ray will be dead before I lose my beauty, or Ray and Karen will both be dead before I apologize. She says, it was a tacky dig. Death means something different at that age. I completely agree with you. Yeah.
See, this is why I love perspective. That is so true, especially because this was not that long ago that her parents died back to back. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a new perspective. I love an audience. Thank you.
Yes. And it happened while Gizelle, Robin, and Ashley were digging into Karen hardcore, you know, during that process. So I think, you know, it adds an extra special layer to why Gizelle needs to kind of stand down when it comes to this and just straight up apologize at this point, if that's what Karen needs to feel better, right?
Yeah.
So my next question, and I want Lailah to come back to answer this too, as a mom of the group.
Yeah.
What did you feel about Ashley bringing the baby to this environment? I feel like she always does this. She knows there's going to be drama and yelling, and she goes, you know what? Let me bring my infant. Stress them out a bit.
She doesn't care. I mean, I was worried for her trying to get across to where they had to sit. And poor Dylan, but I get it. It is what it is. I mean, she wants to be with the child. I don't know. Look, I don't know. Lailah's a better person to answer this question because I'm like, okay, this is why I don't have kids.
I'm glad she's back. Lailah, tell us, how do you feel about Ashley bringing her kid to the group scene, knowing that there was going to be a blow up? She did this a lot last season as well with the first baby, Dean. And I always hated it. It stresses me out. Yelling stresses me out. I can't imagine, like, you know, an infant.
Yeah. Okay. Like you said, last season, you know, she said she was very attached to her baby, like, you know, and I understand that. But this season, it's like, okay. It's like taking your child to work. It's not always appropriate. You know what I mean? And that's just my personal opinion. Like, I'm with Ashley when she does the public breastfeeding, the normalized breastfeeding movement. But when it comes to consistently taking your child to an environment that you know is going to be filled with drama, I'm just not a fan of that. I just feel like, okay, you hired a nanny, use your nanny and take a break.
Yeah.
The only reason, let me say this, and I'm sorry, you guys, I'm out of shape. I just walked up the steps. I'm breathing hard. I'm breathing hard, that's why. Okay, but I do want to point out this because this happened to me when my child was young. She did also say that it's hard for her baby to take a bottle. And so when you're breastfeeding, your baby don't take a bottle, what you gonna do? And so it made me wonder, okay, like, is the baby always with her because the baby won't take a bottle? That's the only pass I can give her.
Okay. I think it's an interesting perspective because it does change things, right?
Yeah.
It really does change things. Okay. Okay.
And she
I
did,
can
and
see it.
she did reveal that. Was it this episode or last week's episode? So that
Yeah,
makes
last
sense.
week.
Okay, perspective. See, this is why we
Yes.
need you, Lailah.
It's
The baby
important.
gotta eat. So
Mhm.
can we give that to her? We'll give it to her. That the baby had to eat and the baby don't take a bottle. We give it
Yep.
to her.
I
Yeah.
give it to
I
her.
can give that to her. Yeah.
Okay.
If it comes
I mean, she still doesn't
down
have
to
much of
that,
a
then it comes
storyline this
down to
season.
that.
She's still boring me, but you know.
Same. And so I have a question. Did she kind of get back to her old ways when she basically called Candace a chipmunk again? You know, she said, oh, when Candace was giving the compliments or something, she was like, oh, I'm glad she had that squirreled away in her cheeks or something like that, to that effect. It's like, I know you're calling her a chipmunk again, like you did on Twitter before she called you a bed W, you know? How did you guys feel about that?
I still don't understand why these two ladies don't like each other. I mean, you don't have to love each other. I don't need you to be best friends, but to be so mad at each other that you can't even work with each other. I just don't get it. I feel like there has to be more. I've seen them talk about it on interviews, and I still don't get why you guys have this beef.
Mm-hmm. What about you,
I
Lailah?
personally, I don't like when people compare Black people to animals, to be honest with you. And I feel like Candace is one of those people like me to where you don't have white features. Like some Black people have white features to where they're praised for. Like if you look at Gizelle or just anyone like either with lighter skin or lighter eyes or angled nose or whatever people perceive white features to be in this country. Candace is not that. I'm not that. And when I hear people compare women who look like Candace to animals, even if it's a chipmunk, to me, a chipmunk or a squirrel is cute. But when I hear people compare people like Candace to animals, it's offensive to me. So I found it very offensive, and I do think Ashley is white identified, and I do think Ashley takes on the habits of her husband, where how she was calling Wendy ferocious. Animals are ferocious; people are not ferocious. So I do feel like Ashley takes on those traits of her husband, to where she compares and uses words that compare Black people to animals and also criminals. That's my personal opinion.
That's very
It's not cute.
interesting.
It's not
Mhm.
cute.
I agree. And I think that there's a problem with that on the show in general, because yes, I 1,000% agree that Ashley does that. And I also believe that Candace very often does the same thing. You know, Candace calls people roaches all the time, you know, both on the show and on Twitter. And then, you know, she's calling people hood rat. She's calling them ghetto. She's calling them all kinds of things, you know? So I can totally see. And that's why I think they don't get along, is that they are two sides of the same coin. They both have a
Yes.
very serious issue with these sorts of
Yes.
things.
It's like a classism issue. Like with Candace, it's like elitism. Like she was forever calling Monique hood, like always, you know, referring to people's class. Even I believe that's part of her problem with Ashley, because she looked at Ashley as hood. Even though Ashley, you know, came up with this guy, she still looks at her as hood. And then Ashley, you know, in the same breath, looks at her as an animal, a squirrel. She says she has a rap sheet as if she's a criminal. So yeah, they are different sides of the same coin, and that makes them like oil and water.
Okay.
It always plays out that way. So Jerry sent a super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jerry. And I love that photo, by the way. He says, Escala is a bit boring. Let's get an outro package. Oh, not even the intro package. He says outro package. Clearly she wasn't impressive enough for full time. Hell, in 5 years, Marlo didn't have an intro. And it's true. You know, I did do a rewatch of Housewives of Atlanta. And when Marlo was first introduced, she was introduced as dating the same guy that Nene was dating when she was separated from Greg, this NFL guy. And then she got her first solo scene the next episode, where she was with the billionaires. Because remember, she was like dating the guy who owned CNN. And so she was doing like an auction with his family. And I was like, damn, like she's getting solo scenes and everything. The next episode in, then she was on Candy Coated Nights, like really doing the damn thing. We're about to get to the South Africa trip. And here we are with Escala still giving us nothing.
But if you had to choose between Escala and Robin for next season, who would you choose?
Escala. Because if she were full time, she would get more. She would
How
get
dare
the
you?
full...
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?
She would get the full deal. So yeah, I would totally choose her over Robin. What about you?
The thing about being a reality TV star, you do have to have some drama in your life. Like if you live your life as a normal individual, you know, you don't let things get too hype in your life, like you manage your life, then you're not interested on reality TV. And I get the feeling that Escalade, as your friend said, I get the feeling that she lives a normal life. And maybe they did do her background, but her background wasn't interesting. Like when they did Marlo's background and she's hanging out with billionaires because she was sleeping with one. That's interesting. That's interesting. But if Escalade's background is normal, then that's good for her. That means she probably has a healthy life. But as far as reality TV, it's not really interesting. And I think that's what they discovered. Like if you compare her and Mia and who's going to get the peach, Mia's background is dramatic, you know?
Oh my God.
The oatmeal.
She was on Watch What Happens Live, and even just her responding to some of the questions, she is a great housewife. Like Mia has to come back.
Yeah, I hope she does. She does.
And there's more. There's more about her life. I don't know if you guys got to see the video that I did over the weekend about her.
I saw it. Yes.
She opened up about an opioid overdose, and I was like, "Well, there's more, Mia. There's more to talk about." So Mia she has such great potential, but when she was on Watch What Happens Live, I was looking at the feet.
Were they big?
What did you think?
I brought an
example. He has a picture, Grace.
I brought an example. I mean...
Okay, pull it down some. Let's see her height compared to her husband.
Oh, you want to... Okay. Let's pull it in. Let's pull it in. Okay.
Oh, that's Andy. So she is tall. She's a tall girl.
She's a tall woman. I don't think there's anything wrong with the feet.
No, because she's tall. Yeah, if you're tall, you probably have long feet.
It's proportional.
Yeah. I don't see the problem. Paris Hilton's got big feet because she's very tall. Rihanna's got very big feet as well, but she's very tall.
Oh, Rihanna does too?
She's got really big feet. Who else? Like these girls are tall, so I don't think there's like an issue with it. And that's the thing with Candace. It's like, honestly, there's a lot that can be said about Candace. I'm not going to say it, but there's a lot that can be said about Candace as well. Like the only thing I'll say is the makeup. I feel like she's got Sesame Street makeup, like the heavy, like Miss Janice eyelashes all the time. Like people could really get on that, but we don't because it's rude, So who do you think you are running around? Yeah. Don't you guys
my mom, her name is Janice. They call her Miss Janice, but okay. But go ahead.
But it's true. They're so heavy. Like she could barely keep her eyes open. And then she's already such a petite girl and everything, petite face, like round face. Yeah. So it looks horrible on her, but no one pointed out because they want to spare her feelings. So she needs to stop before they come at her with that. I'm just saying.
I agree about the makeup because I've always noticed that about her makeup. I was like, I don't wear makeup, so I don't know. But every time I see it, I'm like, that's like whoever's doing her makeup has a heavy hand.
It's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah. And they're doing this thing with her nose particularly that makes it look so bad. They keep trying to shorten it. Like they're putting like a little circle highlight in the middle. And it just throws everything off. And like, when she doesn't have it all contoured like intensely, she looks really good. Like I wish they would calm down on the makeup. Especially in her first season, she was so beautiful. She's really pretty without all of the theatrics. So we've got another super chat, you guys. This time is from Mo Taylor. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I need to get that sound effect that Kempire has because it's so
I thought I just heard it. Somebody, Kempire did it for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. She says, Gizelle blames Karen for hurting her daughter and not the man she keeps calling friend. She really is trying to save face. Hold him accountable, sis. I completely agree. So that's what they end up arguing about on the Goddess Lunch. I tuned out, you guys. I was so tired of the same old with these two. Like, what do you guys think?
I agree. It's sort of like, okay, Gizelle, and I'm glad they showed over the years the amount of times that Gizelle has apologized to Karen. But it's sort of like, damn, y'all fighting again? And now you're apologizing and making up again? So it's going to be interesting next week to see what that's going to look like between them. Are they really over it? But the ratings are reflecting that people are sort of like, okay, it was an up moment. Now the ratings have been down. I haven't checked last night's ratings, but the ratings are a little shaky for Potomac.
Yeah.
And I don't blame the viewers because, we're watching it because this is what we do. This is our gig. But I got to ask you guys, if you had to rate the episode on a scale of 1 to 10, like Shan asked earlier, Shannon Van, what would you guys rate it? It wasn't that great. It wasn't that explosive.
Shout out to Shannon Van. Come on
Isn't
back,
she
girl.
amazing?
Yeah, but she told me she was like she over it as far as YouTube. So yeah. But if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would actually give it a 5 because I do feel like it was a filler episode. It was filled with family scenes, which are not dramatic. I did appreciate the end. I think Mia actually did a good job with her dinner or her brunch or whatever. But on a whole, I would give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh, I would go 5 out of 10 too. It did feel very filler, and then once it was done, I was just sort of like, because I recap it on my channel and I recap it on TikTok, and I was just sort of like, what happened in this episode that's worth talking about? And I just there wasn't a lot.
I thought about that for us. I was like, what are we going to talk about when we meet up?
We always find something though.
Yeah.
Right. It's a 5 across the board, you guys. And I'm seeing a lot of you guys are rating it very low in the chat as well. It wasn't an explosive episode at all. But you know what? The preview for next week's episode, which I hope it's finally happening, Miss Dorothy's going to come and save us. Did you see the conversation that she had about Chris? I didn't know he was going to quit his job and become a house husband. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I don't know if Miss Dorothy's enough to make me interested in their storyline.
Oh yeah?
She's enough for me. She's enough for me.
For me too. I'm getting Miss what's Candy's mom's name? Miss whatever her face.
Miss what is her name?
Candace's mom, Dorothy?
No, Candy. Candy Housewives of Atlanta.
Oh my gosh.
We know it, but we're blanking.
I know. Put in the comments.
Yes, they're gonna tell us. Mama Joyce.
Yeah, Mama Joyce, not Miss. Mama Joyce.
Mama Joyce.
Yeah,
she is the blueprint.
Yeah, I love
two short people with big heads together. Like she's iconic.
I love that because I feel like that's real. So I love the moms. And Chris has been showing up even when he showed up to her video shoot in his chef's outfit, like he's trying to prove to Gizelle like he has a job, and then Miss Dorothy shutting it down like, no, he quit his job to be a house husband. I love that. That is so funny to me. I love it.
Me too. And I feel like she low-key exposed them again because what were they saying? Oh, Chris owned that restaurant and he sold it. So what do you mean he quit his job?
Because if you own something, you can't quit it. You have to sell it.
You got to sell it. And by the way, that restaurant, Myron Dixon, is still around. And it never said anything about the ownership changing. That restaurant is still around. So like they just keep lying about who this man is. It's interesting.
And their storyline, I think they're giving us an image. But I have heard, even Candy was live and she brought Chris up this week and she was talking about how good his food is and that he should be giving out his recipes and things like that. Yes. So apparently he's a very good cook. So there's talented. There's talent. I just don't know if he has a job.
No.
Okay. I'm about to say something. Forget what Kempire just said about you don't know if he has a job. He has a skill. He has a skill. And to all my people out there with no job, but you got a skill. If you can find a niche for your skill, and Chris and Candace met up with Candy and Todd, and basically they got advice on Candy and Todd on how to hustle. And you could see on Chris's Instagram, like he's taking that advice. And basically, Chris, from what I can tell, he is a great chef, and people love to eat, right? That's something that doesn't change. So you can tell he's trying to get more into his chef, whether it's online classes or whatever it is, like he's trying to find his niche to make money off of that. And obviously there's a lot of money to be made off of cooking or chefing or whatever you call it. So I do feel like people say Chris is a deadbeat and I don't agree. I feel like he is a man with a skill. And I feel like just like Candace is finding her niche, as far as singing and acting and being a reality star, I do feel like Chris is finding his niche as well. Despite the fact that he's older, despite the fact that he has kids already, I do feel like he's finding himself. You can shoot me if you want to, but I do feel like he is.
That I can agree with, but I don't know. I personally, especially if I, had parents who were going to pay like what, 400,000, 200,000 for my wedding, I would not be marrying, a baby daddy with potential. Sorry, but no, it's not happening. I would not be attracted to it, and I would not be allowed to either. I'm just saying. So you guys, real quick before we wrap it up here, we got a super chat. Thank you so much. I think this is another super chat conscious Beauty sent. She says, I agree. The more toxic the mama, the better the storyline. Mama Joyce is the greatest of all time. Sad but true, man. Sad.
She's definitely more.
True.
I like Mama Dorothy, Miss Dorothy, but Mama Joyce, we have some classic moments with Mama Joyce.
Yes, Mama Joyce. I love Mama D. I love her too. I really love Mama D. I love the moms. They come on and spill the truth. They spill the real tea.
Yep.
So I love it.
They deliver, you guys. So it's going to be interesting. And she loves a reunion. So she's going to be at the reunion. Candace is going to confront her, and it's going to be glorious. It is going to be glorious.
We love it.
So you guys, that does it. Another recap of the Real Housewives of Potomac. Remember, every Monday, Lailah Lynn, Kempire Daily, and I are recapping this show for you guys. Next week, we are on Lailah's channel, I believe.
Yes.
So definitely make sure to keep an eye out for Lailah's channel, where we will be doing next week's recap on Monday, same time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. After that, we will be on Kempire's channel, then right back here. So it is a circle every single week. I've got the links to both of their channels in the description box down below, so you can follow them. They both post consistently. So the latest on Bravo and everybody. Lailah's got some really good videos about Wendy Williams right now. Does she have breast implant illness? Check that out. It's a really good video. And then Kempire, what I was watching from you this morning was the Mia stuff. She admitted to having an opioid overdose when she was younger. So definitely head over there, check them out. Special thank you to Shannon Van for being the moderator. As usual, you are absolutely amazing. And thank you to all of you guys for sharing your afternoon or evening or day with us from wherever it is that you are. We'll see you next week on Lailah's channel. Bye, guys.
Bye.